communication devices, we're going to switch gears now. They are constantly, as well as email, of course, constantly, giving us the illusion that our workforce today is more connected than ever before. But some argue that the true key to a connected workforce is authentic connection with others. So how? How in the world do you achieve that when workers are constantly connected on their phones, remote working is on the rise? How do we get there? Joining us now is Dan Schawbel, author of Back to Human, How Great Leaders Create Connection in the Age of Isolation. Oh boy, Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
So happy to be here with you.
And your book, congratulations, it just released last week. In the book, you interviewed 100 leaders to find out their best practices. What are the top tips?
Yeah, so they said technology is a double-edged sword. It can be good or bad depending on how, when, and where you use it. Some of the most interesting things were that they would empower remote workers. So if you're not seeing and hearing from someone working remote for a long period of time, let them run the meeting so they feel like they could be even next to you. And I think another one is do social events, workations, and team building activities so that you're forcing interactions on a more human level. You take yourself outside of the office. That's when more interesting relationships are formed. People tend to open up and real relationships are created, which is important because 7% of the global workforce has 0 friends at work and half have 5 or fewer. Yet we spend an average of 47 hours a week at work.
Wow.
And not having your phone is a new vacation. We email people outside the office and text people, so we're constantly working. And another leader would fly to different locations, even though she worked in New York, and therefore investing in her people. When she doesn't have to do that, she made the time and used money to do that.
Awesome.
And you end up saving money on the long term when you invest in people.
Well, I guess so for the executives, though, there's this balance that you're trying to facilitate as well, where you want these authentic connections to be made, but you still want productivity. You still want the job to get done. And there's a fine line, it seems like, between the two. So how do you make sure you have the perfect ratio of creating these genuine connections in your workplace among your employees, but then still getting productivity out of it?
There is no perfect ratio, but in the book I say we should promote work-life integration. So individuals should look at their calendar and say, hey, if I live and die by my calendar, then it needs to include personal-related activities, not just work ones. And leaders should support their employees in enabling them to do personal things at work, because more and more people are responding to email outside of work, on weekends, and on vacation. So because employers keep taking, there needs to be some give on the other side, and that creates a better, safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Yeah, I think everyone would be very, very happy to get more from their employers. Now, you actually have some exercises that maybe you can take us through to get into a better state of authentic connections?
Yeah, I think one of them is about shared learning. So the average relevancy of a learned skill is only 5 years. We want to keep up with the speed of business. And in order to do that, we have to learn and share and teach each other something new so we can improve and go along that journey together. And so one of the exercises in the book is about having everyone come to a meeting on, let's say, a Monday and share something they know with someone else who would benefit from that material or that lesson or that article or that white paper or some sort of skill they learned. Wow. And the more you practice that, the more you get people actively sharing and teaching, the more they learn that skill and improve it and become an expert in it, and the more everyone else benefits. And then there's an exercise about gratitude and just coming to a meeting and saying, hey, like I'm just really happy to be here. You've had such a huge impact on my career. And then that will go around, and so everyone feels more connected to their team because they've expressed love for each other.
I love it.
Yeah. No,
and you bake it in. You bake it into the agenda, and you say we're doing these things first and second.
Absolutely. Well, what if a company is in the time of turmoil? We're watching Facebook right now. Internally, their employees are facilitating and exhibiting that their confidence is weakened within the brand itself. At a time like that, how does a company prioritize these genuine connections, these authentic connections in times of turmoil?
So there are 4 key employee engagement factors, and the one that is most applicable here is trust. So you need to be open and honest with everything that's going on, and the more you share that information, the more people will trust you, want to work for you, and stay with you. And if you don't have a trusting brand, if you're not open and honest as even a leader within that brand, then people are just not going to feel connected to the workplace, and they're not going to trust you with things that are important to them. And then happiness is important, purpose. Well, Facebook clearly has a purpose, changing the world, making the world more connected. And and belonging. People want to feel like they belong to something, and it's just like when you grow up, you want to be in the in crowd. People want to feel like they have people who are going to support them and embrace them as people, not just as workers.
Awesome. And what about companies that are growing and growing very quickly? And everybody has 10,000 things they've got to do in different directions, and nobody's all working on the same thing, right? As maybe a company that's tasked with a singular purpose.
Yeah, I think that it's a leader's responsibility now to be the one orchestrating these social events and socialization within the company and make time for that, because if it's much easier to quit a job when you just have acquaintances than if you have friends, especially best friends.
Yep. Okay, great tips there, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing them with us.
Thank you very much.